few days ago over on my Instagram, I asked you, what should I make a video on next? One of my favorite responses was, what should I look for when getting a credit card? And I think that's a great question. So if you're looking to get a credit card and wondering what factors you should be looking for and how to make a decision that best fits your needs, this video is for you. Welcome to the Ready Set Life YouTube channel. My name is Brittany and I'm a millennial financial coach who makes videos all about taking the fear out of finance. Make sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed this video and subscribe if you haven't already. I put out new videos every single Thursday and you don't want to miss them. So if you've been looking into getting a credit card, you may be thinking, what do I even need to consider? What questions should I be asking? What types of features should I be looking for? And which ones should I stay away from? Or maybe you're like I was a few years ago and thinking, wait, there's a difference between credit cards and there are different types? Well, let me be the first to tell you, yes, there are. And today I'm going to go back into the brain archives and pull out all the information and research that I did when I was totally lost and confused about this, so you don't have to be. Let's start by discussing the different types of credit cards. The first and most popular is the standard credit card, aka the unsecured card. This is the most common card and what you typically think of when you think of a credit card. Basically, if you're approved for one of these, you'll get a credit limit to spend within and then charge an interest rate on the money that you owe on the card. These cards can have a lot of differences, including how that interest rate is calculated, when you have to pay it by, and what rewards you get by actually spending on that card. But we'll talk about all these details later. For now, just know that it's a type of card that's available. The second type is a secured credit card. These require collateral for approval. For people with little or no credit, it's a great place to start. Or if you have terrible credit and need to rebuild from scratch and can't actually get approved for any of the standard cards, this is a really good route to take too. With this card type, you actually pay a certain amount of money in advance, say $500, and they give you a card with a $500 amount limit. Generally, the money that you prepay is equal to the limit on the card. After a few months of using this card and consistently paying it off on time, you'll be able to actually move up to a standard card instead. And usually you'll get the money back that you actually put towards the card in the first place. The third type of credit card isn't really a credit card, but I do want to mention it here anyway because it seems like it is and it can get a little confusing. Prepaid credit cards. These are like those preloaded Visa or MasterCards that you get from your uncle on your birthday. It's not a real credit card, but it essentially acts the same way. You can use it online or at a physical store just like you would a regular credit card, but the amount is already prepaid onto it. It's like a gift card, but for every store that accepts major credit cards. I mention the gifts because that's the only thing that I've ever used these as, but if you're looking to make an online purchase and for some reason don't want to use a credit card, if you don't have one, or maybe you're paying off debt and trying not to use your credit cards, or if you don't have one of those fancy debit cards that can also be used online, then you can preload one of these to actually make the purchase. For the purposes of today's video, I'm going to assume that you are looking into getting a regular standard credit card. So, what do you need to consider? To understand which factors are going to be the most important to you in your search for a credit card, you have to first take a look at why you're getting the card. Are you getting it to rebuild your credit? Then it's probably a high priority to look for something with no fees attached because you're going to be keeping it open for a long time. Are you getting it as your everyday purchase go-to card? Then the rewards are going to be important to you because you'll probably be taking full advantage of them. Think about what this card is going to be used for and how you're going to be using it. If you're planning on traveling with it, you're going to have to take a look at the fees on foreign transactions, or if there are any perks like complimentary travel insurance or VIP lounge access. The why of your card is going to determine how each of the factors that I'm going to talk about will actually be prioritized in your research. So let's get right down to it. Here are the 5 factors that you should be considering when getting a credit card. Factor number 1 is annual fees. There are a ton of cards out there that do not have an annual fee attached to it. Look for these first, because it pains me to even think of banks collecting money from us just for the privilege of using their branded plastic. However, in certain situations, the benefits of the card can actually outweigh the fees, and that's when having an annual fee is acceptable. So do your research and calculations on this. If you have it, take a snapshot of your previous spending and figure out whether the fee would have actually been worth it to you. Or do a kind of future projection and see just how much you'll actually have to spend on the card in order for it to equal out. In many cases, it won't, and that's how they get you. So be careful with annual fees and make sure that you read the fine print before you get the card to know if you're actually being charged one and whether it's worth it to you. And side note, if this is your first card, do not get one with an annual fee. You're going to want to keep that first card open for a really long time as a representation of your credit history. And you do not want to be paying that annual fee for the rest of your life. This is the one you've all been waiting to hear about, interest rates. And you know what? I'm gonna say, don't pay too much attention to it.
But the interest rate is the single most important factor in how much extra I'll be paying with my credit card company once I get the card.
If you're using your credit card properly, you won't be paying any interest. Let me explain. The proper and healthy way to use a credit card is to never charge anything to it that you don't already have money for in your bank account. Yep, paying it off in full every single month. If you're not ready to do this, then you're not ready for a credit card. That being said, obviously, interest rate is an important factor in choosing a credit card. Sometimes life happens, we fall off the wagon, whatever. So if there's an option to get a cheaper interest rate, go for it. But when you're initially searching, just try and at least make sure that you're matching the average interest rate. For Canada, that average interest rate is around 19%. And for the US, it's around 14%. If you're getting a card for the very first time, your interest rate is probably going to be a little bit higher than that. They don't know you, and there's nothing showing them that they can actually trust you with paying the money back. But if you've been using a credit card for a while, then you'll be able to negotiate a really great interest rate, especially if you have a really good, responsible credit history. Factor number 3 is credit limit. Again, if you're getting a card for the first time, or it's your first time with a specific bank or a lender, then your limit might be small, and that's okay. If you're just building your credit, you don't actually need a high limit on your card. But if you're looking to use it to make a really big purchase, then limit might actually matter to you a little bit more. In my experience, the best way to get a high credit limit is to be consistent. Start off with a really great base card and then just pay it consistently. In time, that bank or lender will actually see that and offer you pre-approved increases. You don't have to do anything extra, you don't have to worry about it, but the limit will be there when you need it. You can also request increases earlier if you want them. But again, you'll have to start off with a smaller one to prove that you can actually be responsible before they'll actually approve you for these increases. If you're confused about this or wondering if these increases will affect your credit score negatively, I'm going to link my video on credit scores up in the cards. In that video, I go over all the effects that these types of moves have on your credit score and explain why it's actually a good thing to say yes to those free increases, even though they seem a little bit scammy. Factor number 4 is fees and penalties. Read the fine print. I know, none of you will actually do this because who reads the terms and conditions anymore? But this isn't your Pokemon Go update. This is your real life. Read before you sign. This is the single most important piece of advice that I'm going to give you. In order to choose a credit card that's going to be right for you, you're going to have to know all of those sneaky little things that the bank is trying to pull right from under your nose. Is there an annual fee on the card? And no, it doesn't matter if that annual fee is waived within the first year. You still have to know if there's a fee because it's an ongoing cost that you're going to have to incur in the future. What are the fees on foreign transactions? I don't know about you, but sometimes I buy things in different countries. Did you know that there was a fee on this? I certainly didn't. But guess what? Using your credit card to buy from somewhere else in the world will generally cost you an extra 2 to 4% of that purchase. On top of any potential exchange rates or customs fees, that can make shopping across the world pretty darn expensive. And if you're going to use your card for this, make sure that you're looking for a low fee. FYI, in Canada, the average fee is 2.5%. In the States, it's 3%. But there are a few cards in both countries with a 0% fee, so look for those ones. What's the fee for a late payment? Hopefully, you'll never have to incur this cost. But if something crazy ever happens, you're going to have to know what this fee actually is. If you are ever late in paying your minimum payment, this is the extra charge that the company is going to tack on the end of your bill. They might also increase your interest rate after a late payment, so make sure you know what's up before you miss one of your payments and get screwed over. There can also be other fees like an exceeding your credit limit fee or an inactive account fee or a cash advance fee. The only way you're going to know if the card you're looking into has any or all of these is by reading those tiny little charts that they stick at the bottom of credit card marketing pages. It's going to take some commitment, but understanding all of those little fees can really make a difference in choosing which card is right for you. Factor number 5 is rewards and sign-up bonuses. And yes, I've left this specifically to the end because I know that you wanted me to talk about it first. Credit card rewards can be amazing. I'm all for sticking it to the big companies and getting all the extra perks that you can out of them. But these companies know that that's what you're there for. That's why they have super enticing marketing for all these reward programs, but they're actually confusing and filled with tiny little details that, again, no one reads. So here's my tip for you. Don't let the temptation of a good deal or an amazing perk cloud your judgment when it comes to choosing your credit card. Think about how you're actually going to use that card and how you live your life, and if the rewards fit with that. Say there's a card and it's got an annual fee, but it's got a great travel rewards program. There's also a signing bonus that waives that annual fee and a 0% interest rate offer for the first 6 months. Sounds great, right? But once you look into it, you figure that you have to travel at least 4 times in the next year to make it worth it. And you have to spend a ridiculous amount on the card to actually qualify enough to make those rewards for the 4 trips valuable. And you're paying the card off every month. So that 0% interest rate doesn't even matter to you anyway. Is it really worth it? If you're already planning on traveling 3 or 4 times, yeah, it might be. But what about next year? Will it be worth it then, or are you going to have to cancel the card? Can you take that hit on your credit score the next year, or are you thinking of needing it soon? If you're not already traveling 4 times a year, maybe it's not worth it, and a cashback card would be better. You wouldn't get the travel miles, but the cash that you do get could be used for traveling if you need it. What about a card that offers cash back in specific categories? Do the categories rotate or change? Can you choose the categories that you get in cash back, or are they chosen for you? And if you can, how many times can you actually change those categories? Or are they stuck from the beginning? Trying to game the system when it comes to your credit cards is fine. A lot of people use credit cards in this way, signing up and canceling cards left and right in order to get the types of bonuses and perks when they need them. It can save a lot of money, but it's also exhausting. There's a lot of work involved in that, especially to do it right. You have to keep track of all the little perk conditions, closing dates, opening dates, which card to use at which time. Ugh, don't commit to that. It doesn't hurt to make sure that there's a reward system associated with your card, but you also don't have to put pressure on yourself to find out the single best award that will change your life. My advice, when in doubt, just choose cashback. Overall, choosing a credit card can be daunting. There are a ton of options out there, and what works for one person isn't necessarily going to work for you. As a recap, it's important to remember why you're choosing the credit card. Once you know this, you'll know how heavy or light to weigh each of the factors that we talked about, which, by the way, if you need them, are on the screen right there. So feel free to pause and take a screenshot if you need it. If you want to know more about credit cards and credit scores, I put a few videos right here that you might be interested in. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite credit card is, and if you've ever had a super terrible experience with a credit card company. Make sure to like this video if you want to see more videos about credit cards, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon for more videos. Bye!